In our last video, or in the last video, we mentioned that one of the things that the Federal Reserve does is create money. And that's what we're going to be talking a little bit about in this video. More specifically, what we're going to be talking about is the U.S. money supply. So the money supply for the United States. You probably could have gotten that from me just saying the U.S. money supply, right? The first thing that we are going to do is we're just going to define money, right? So some of you may, well, I mean, not some of you, all of you have an idea of what money is in your minds. For some of you, some of the things that we're going to talk about here, you might not have considered as money before. You might have been thinking of something different, but we will see. All right, so money is any widely accepted means of payment. All right, so pretty broad definition there. So any widely accepted means of payment, and that's it. All right, as long as you can go from vendor to vendor and kind of use this medium of exchange wherever you go, then it is considered money. All right, some other textbooks might go more into the characteristics of money. We're not going to do that, but there are some things. Well, I'm not going to write it up here, but a lot of things that money should do, right? It should be what they call a medium of exchange. So this is kind of the idea that it's widely accepted, that you can take whatever it is from one person to the next, and they are going to accept it as a means of payment. It also has to kind of hold value. There are some other properties that money has to have, but again, we're not going to spend really any time on that. All right, but that is what money is. So let's talk about some of the important types of money for the U.S. All right, so I'm going to just write, there's 4 of them. I'm just going to write all 4 of these down, and then we will talk about them each in turn. I don't need a period there. All right, so here we have it. All right, so just running through these, just essentially me reading them. Not that that's really helpful. You guys know how to read, but we have currency, total reserves, checkable deposits, and then savings deposits, money market mutual funds, and certified deposits. All right, so I'm just going to leave these up here, and just kind of talk about each one of these. So, I might not write it down, but it's going to behoove you to know what each of these are. All right, so starting with currency. All right, and by that I mean you should probably write these down. All right, at least some of the ones that I talk quite a bit about. All right, so currency. This is what a lot of people think of as money. All right, or what they think money is. Currency is our paper bills and coins. That's what our currency is. So a lot of people think kind of, or, you know, colloquially known as cash, right? So some people think that cash and money are synonymous, or currency and money are synonymous, but that is not the case. So currency is a type of money. It is not it is not equivalent to money. All right. So again, currency, that's our paper bills and coins. Then moving on to number 2. That one's pretty easy. We're all familiar with that. Number 2. Total reserves, and the full kind of thing for this is total reserves held by the Fed. Right, so we mentioned that the Federal Reserve maintains some accounts, right, for banks and other financial institutions. So those accounts, right, the money in those accounts are total reserves, right? The total reserves held by the Fed, right? Most of us have probably not encountered these, although we've probably encountered something similar, right? So when a bank is, you know, depositing money with the Fed, then they're not taking, you know, truckloads of cash to the Federal Reserve, and then that cash gets dumped into a giant Scrooge McDuck style money pit, right? Instead, what's happening is that there are electronic claims added to the bank's account, right? If they're depositing money, if they're withdrawing it, then it's deducted, right? There is no, you know, money pit. There's no little cubby that says Bank of America where they put all of the kind of stacks of money in there, right? It's just on a computer. Just electronic claims that can be exchanged for currency. All right, so that's what the total reserves are. So kind of all of those electronic claims held by the Federal Reserve. All right, somewhat similarly, but kind of more for consumers and more for us, right, are checkable deposits. Right, this is just a checking account. All right, so if you have a checking account, so you have money in a checking account that you either use checks for, or more likely now you have a debit card for, that is what we are talking about. And here again, these are also electronic claims, right? When you go deposit money at the bank, you actually will probably take, if you're depositing money yourself, you'll either take paper money or, you know, currency, cash, and hand it to the teller. All right, you might also take a check, so that's, but anyways, that's not the point. But just like with the Fed, right, they don't go and put it somewhere, you know, there's no cubby with your name on it that they put inside a vault where they just stack your money up, right? That wouldn't be very useful anyways, because then if, you know, you'd have to go to that bank to withdraw your money if you just took your money and stuff. But they are these electronic claims, right? So when you go on and, you know, if you have online banking and you go and check your balance, you're essentially looking at those electronic claims. The number there represents that electronic claim that can be exchanged for currency. All right, so that's it for checkable deposits. All right, again, just checking accounts. All right, number 4, we're going to do each of these in turn. All right, so the first one, savings deposits. You could probably guess what this is. This is just savings accounts. All right, so if you have a savings account, again, it's going to be electronic claims that you can convert into currency. Then we have money market mutual funds. These are portfolios of kind of bonds and stocks that you can kind of purchase and then try, you know, gain the interest off of those. So again, just a collection of stocks and bonds, right, or portfolio. And then we're not going to talk about that one that much, right? And then the last one, certified deposits. You're more likely to have heard of these referred to as CDs. At least that's how I've always heard them referred as. I've never heard anybody say certified deposit in real life. But so if you don't know what a CD is, essentially it's You take money, you deposit it with the bank, and they say, you can withdraw this money in 6 months or a year or however long the term is. Usually you're going to get a better interest rate because you are telling the bank, hey, this money is, I'm guaranteeing that it's going to stay in this account. You can withdraw it early if you wish, but you do have to pay a penalty, right? So to break the CD, you have to pay a penalty to withdraw that money. All right, but that's what certified deposits or CDs are. You're essentially saying, I'm going to deposit this money for 6 months to get a higher interest rate, so I can earn more on my deposits, and in exchange, you kind of get this. The bank gets a little bit more stability in their deposits. All right. And again, if you break that CD, you have to pay a penalty. All right, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is what a liquid asset is. So a liquid asset is an asset that can be used for payment quickly, I missed a word in here. So an asset that can be used for payment, kind of full stop, or quickly and without loss of value, converted into an asset that can be used for payment. That L is going to bother me. All right, so again, an asset that can be used for payment or quickly and without loss of value, converted into an asset that can be used for payment. All right, so currency, total reserves, well, currency is the most liquid, right? If you have currency and it's the right kind of currency for the country you're in, all right, you can use that as payment, right? Most people won't refuse cash, right? It is, so you can use that cash for payment. All right, also, so your checkable deposits, especially with the advent of debit cards, definitely liquid assets. You can even if somebody won't take a debit card, you can go find an ATM and convert it into an asset very quickly. All right. Total reserves held by the Fed are also considered liquid assets. Savings deposits are not as liquid as the other three, mostly just because you don't get it. You don't have a debit card type thing for your savings account. At least I've never really heard of that, to where you can get that money taken straight out of there. Instead, you have to do a little bit more work to get that converted, right? So now it's not that bad. You get on your phone and you transfer it over to your checking account, and then you can either withdraw money from an ATM or use that debit card at whatever you're using it for. All right, but it is slightly less liquid just because it takes a little bit longer. Money market mutual funds and certified deposits are not liquid. Right, so especially with the CDs, which is kind of one that we talked a little bit more about, if you want to grab that money or out of that CD, right, you have to usually pay a penalty. So you do have that loss of value, right? This also comes into play with things like, it's not just an asset that can be used for payment, right? It also kind of this whole without loss of value is very important, right? Somebody would probably take my car in exchange for something, right? I might be able to use that as payment, but probably not going to get the best deal, right? It's also, and if I wanted to convert it into something else like cash, right, quickly, right, I would probably lose, have to sell it for less than it's worth, right? If you need cash quickly, right, you're going to sell things at a lower price than they're worth. That's just to get that money faster, right? And so that would not be a liquid asset. All right, so again, just the bottom line for liquid assets or liquidity in general, right? It's liquid if you can quickly use it as payment, right? If you can just use it, then it is liquid. All right, the last thing that we're going to do for this video all right, we're going to look at some definitions of the money supply. All right, first up, we have the monetary base, or MB. The monetary base is currency and total reserves. All right, so the monetary base, that's currency, so that's our paper money, and total reserves held by the Fed, so those electronic claims. All right, that is the monetary base. Then we have M1. This is currency and checkable deposits. All right, and I'll give you all a second to write that down before we do the third and final one, because I'm going to have to erase stuff. All right. And then the last one is M2. This is M1, so currency and checkable deposits, plus savings deposits, money market mutual funds, and CDs. All right, so essentially M1, so currency, and so it's essentially the first, third, and fourth important type of money, right? So M1 is currency and our checkable deposits, and then we have savings, MMF, money market mutual funds, abbreviated it because I didn't want to write it out again. All right, and then those CDs, right? So those are the definitions of the money supply. All right, the reason that we are talking about this is because the Fed only has direct control of the monetary base. Right? So since they are the ones that are holding those total reserves, and they are the ones that issue or create money and issue currency, then they have direct control of that monetary base. But M1 and M2 can make up a much larger kind of portion of the money in total. Right? I believe in your book there is a kind of visual of this, and they've got essentially what is an upside down triangle, and they've got it broken down. I'll just draw it because I don't know necessarily if all right, so it's something along these lines, right? So it's an upside down triangle, right? The monetary base, it is the base of this upside down triangle, right? From there, we branch out into kind of our M1, also part of that is in that monetary base, the currency section, right? But not the total reserves. And then we get up into M2, which is going to be M1 plus this new section. So yeah, so technically M2 would kind of be this section, so M1 and M2, but you get the, well, hopefully you get the idea. All right, also they probably got a better one in the book, right, other than me just drawing it up here. All right, but again, what it's meant to portray, right, is that this bottom part is what the Fed has control over, right? And so when we get into monetary policy, which is where the Fed is trying to use kind of changes in the money supply to affect aggregate demand, they're only able to do it through the monetary base because that's what they have control over, or at least direct control, right? But M1 and M2, right, they represent a larger percentage of that money supply. So this makes it difficult to use monetary policy because the Fed doesn't have full control of the money supply, so they can't, make really precise things happen. All right, but that's something that we want to keep in mind as we go forward. All right, but that's the last thing for this video. In the next video, probably should know, oh yeah, I know what we're doing. All right, in the next video, we're going to be talking about fractional reserve banking. All right, so this one will probably be a little bit shorter than the one we did here because we did quite a few things. It'll be more similar to the first video for this chapter. All right, but that's what we have coming up, and I will see you guys in the next video.